Hey fam, it is your girl, Michelle Allen Franklin, honey. It is I, it is me, it's me. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? It's me. It's your girl, Michelle Allen Franklin, honey. Miss Michelle D.I. Why for divine intervention, baby? Because you know there are no coincidences in this world, only God's divine intervention in our lives. And Mrs. Community Builder, why? Because you know your girl is going to give you that good information, honey. The things you need for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. Yes, honey, it is Men's Month. Yes, it is June 2024, and it is Men's Month. And the question of today on this Motivational Monday, honey, is do you know your numbers? Do you know your numbers? Do you? Do you? What numbers you ask? We about to get into it. We're gonna get into it. Well, you know your girl. What I do is I break the stigma associated with the mental health journey. Yeah. So we're talking about it. We're having the uncomfortable but necessary conversations that you need to have with yourself, boo. Yes. You can't have a relationship with anyone else until you have the best relationship with you. hmm That's what we're doing. So today we are doing a depression and anxiety screening. Uh-huh. Yep. Every 3 to 6 months, depending on what's going on with you, right? You should definitely know what these numbers are. Now, some people out there like Michelle, but I feel fine. I feel good. I'm not sad about anything. There's nothing going on with me. Well, guess what, boo? I thought the exact same thing. I was going to work, going and being and doing just like everyone else. But when I finally got screened, I was in the severe range for both anxiety and depression. I was in the 20s, okay, for both anxiety and depression. So that has filled your girl, honey. It has given me charge to let me just see who else, how many people out there are going and being and doing as I was and not knowing. A lot of us are. Statistically, there are 1 in 5 people that are suffering from some mental anguish disorder right now. And then statistically, there are 1 in 4 people that will. So if you aren't right now, honey, that means a bit of nothing for me. Because again, 1 in 4 people in their lifetime will have some kind of suffering in silence, some kind of mental anguish. So if it's not you today, I'm grateful for that, but you just never know what's going to happen. And so that is why today we are definitely looking at our mental health. We're looking at depression and anxiety screening, and we're just about to jump on into it. So I want you to have a pen, a paper. If you have your phone, you can put it in your note section, however you want to do it, but it is very, very simple. This is 9 questions on the depression screen, and there are 7 questions on the anxiety screen. We're going to go over them right now. Because that's what your girl do. My thing is, baby, if you don't know where you are, how can you help yourself? Right? So we have to know where we are in order to know where we need to go. Okay. So both of these screenings, if you have been feeling this way, if you've been having these symptoms for longer than 2 weeks, this is your cue. Okay. Longer than 2 weeks, we are going to do the depression screening first. There are 9 questions. Excuse me. There are 9 questions. Now, we are going to score for each question. There are 4 choices. So, 0 in the last 2 weeks is not at all. It's a 1 if you've been feeling this way for several days. It's a 2 if you've been feeling this way for more than half the days. And it's a 3 if you've been feeling this way nearly every day. Let's get into it. Number 1, have you had little interest or pleasure in doing things? Have you had little interest and pleasure in doing things? 0 is not at all. 1 is several days. 2 is more than half the days. And 3 is nearly every day. Thanks, Fran. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for voting, honey. Thank you for voting for my baby. I appreciate you. That is number one, little interest or pleasure in doing things. That is zero, not at all. One, several days. Two, more than half the days. Or three, nearly every day. Question number two is, have you been feeling down, depressed, or hopeless? Just in this last 2 weeks, have you been feeling down, depressed, or hopeless? Zero, not at all. One, several days. Two, more than half the days. And three, nearly every day. Number three, have you had trouble falling or staying asleep or sleeping too much? Have you had trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping too much? Just in this past 2 weeks, not at all is zero. One is several days. Two is more than half the days. Three is nearly every day. Number four, feeling tired or having little energy. Have you been feeling tired or having little energy? Zero, not at all. One, several days. Two, more than half the days. Three, nearly every day. One is several days. Two is more than half the days. Three is nearly every day. Okay. Number five, poor eating or overeating. This one was huge for me. Poor eating or overeating. I am a stress eater. I am a food addict. I know that. And people are always like, don't be claiming stuff. Don't be don't be claiming. But I always feel like, honey, at some period of point in time, you have to be honest with yourself, right? Because again, if you don't acknowledge these things that are within us, then how are you going to address them? Right? So knowing that I have an emotional connection with food is very vital to me. So when I'm feeling some kind of way, I'm making a conscious decision. Am I going to go get some French fries? Am I going to go get a banana split? Am I going to go get some mozzarella sticks? Or will I make a better choice? Right? Or will I make a better decision? Or will I make a better choice? Can I handle that a different way? Can I go work out? Can I distract my mind for a few minutes? Because generally it will pass. But knowing where you are. So poor eating, poor appetite, or overeating. Zero, not at all. One, several days. Two, more than half the days. And three, nearly every day. Number six, feeling bad about yourself, or that you are a failure or have let your family down. Guys, this one is huge, mainly for the men especially. I tell this story all the time because it just touched me so. I had a young man in my office. Those of you that know me know that I have been a nurse for over 20 years. There was a young man, and I'm saying young man, but he probably was older than me. There was a gentleman in the office that came in for his depression screening. He was already on medication, and this was his follow-up appointment. And so we were testing. We were just testing, just to see where he was, if the medication was effective. And so when I got to this question, number six, feeling bad about yourself, or that you are a failure or have let yourself or your family down, this man broke out into tears. He broke into tears and he cried for at least 20 minutes, like he cried for a long time. I literally had to tell the doctor to wait, to give him a minute and just console him at that point and let him just have that moment, because he said, all my family, everyone counts on me. He said, everybody counts on me. And it was just the weight of it. And I don't think that a lot of you men are able to express or even have the words to just have all the weight of everything on you and what that feels like, right? And not to have an outlet. Because I asked him, I said, does your wife know that you feel this way? And he said, no, No, I can't talk. I said, well, can you talk to your wife? He said, yeah, I could talk to her about everything except for this. Right. He said, I can't talk to her about this. And I said, is she that type of person that you feel like you can't talk to? No, I could talk to her about everything, but I can't talk to her about this. And so I'm not really sure why, he felt that way. But at the same time, I know that he's not alone and that there are a lot of men out there, a lot of you guys out there that feel that way, that you have to hide your feelings again because of the stigma, mainly because of all of the things men are not supposed to feel. Men are supposed to do this or supposed to be this way, and all of the things that are associated with what a man is, right? And so feeling bad about yourself or that you're a failure or have let yourself or your family down is huge for you men. Again, is at 0. Several days is 1. More than half the days is 2. 3 is nearly every day. And again, this is just in the last 2 weeks. Number 8, trouble concentrating on things such as reading a newspaper, watching TV, sometimes even working. Not at all is 0. 1 is several days. 2 is more than half the days. 3 is nearly every day. Number 8, moving or speaking so slowly that you feel like you're in slow motion. This one was huge for me, especially getting up and trying to get ready for work or, a project or something that I wanted to do. Even like a family function, trying to get up and just get dressed when you're in the thick of it. You feel like you're moving quickly, but you're really not. And hours go by, hours pass, and you don't even realize it, right? And so it is like you feel like you're moving fast, like I'm going to do this real quick. And hours have gone by and you've done a bit of nothing. Or maybe the whole day has passed and you may have done 1 or 2 things. Very significant. Number 8, excuse me, this is number 9. Any thoughts at all that you would be better off dead or hurting yourself in any way? Thoughts that you'd be better off dead or hurting yourself in any way. This is in the last 2 weeks. Not at all is 0. 1 is several days. 2 is more than half the days. And 3 is nearly every day. Now, to just put a penny in that, if you are having any kind of suicidal thoughts, any suicidal ideation, any thoughts of, I might be better off, the world might be better off, my family doesn't care about me, if those thoughts are very overwhelming to you at this point, then you definitely can get yourself to an emergency room. That is not normal thoughts. I call him the devil. He sits on your shoulder. He whispers these negative things in your ear. You can call him whatever you want, but that's what I call him. Sits on your shoulder, whispers all these negative things to make you think and feel this way. They are not true. They are not true. The devil is a liar, right? And so if you are having any of those thoughts, then you definitely should have some immediate attention. Okay, that is not sit and wait. That is not sit and wait for it to pass. That is definitely, if you're having it at all, several days, more than half days, nearly every day, then you definitely should be seen by someone right away. You also can call the National Mental Health Hotline, which it's not 911, but it's 988. It's the Mental National Health Hotline, and they have someone on the phone that is available for you to speak to right now, like 24 hours a day, no matter what time it is. You can give them a call. Somebody is always available for at any given time if you start having those thoughts. Okay. The last piece on this, um, if for any reason you checked any of these, if you checked yes or 1, 2, or 3 or scored on any of them, then The last question is, how difficult has it made your day to day? How difficult has it made your day to day, whether it's going to work, just taking care of your regular things at home, school, whatever it is, getting along with other people? Is it not difficult at all, somewhat difficult, very difficult, or extremely difficult? How difficult has it made your day to day? Not difficult at all, somewhat difficult, very difficult, or extremely difficult. Now, that is the end of the depression screen. So I want you to um, put a penny in that, and we're going to move over to the anxiety screen. There are 1 in 7. We're going to total them all up at the end, okay? There are 1 in 7, 7 questions for the anxiety screening. Again, this is only in the past 2 weeks. I want you to think about only in the past 2 weeks. Number one, have you had feelings of nervousness, anxiousness, or just feeling like you're on edge? Feelings of being nervous, anxious, or just on edge. 0 is not at all. 1 is several days. 2 is over half the days. 3 is nearly every day. Any feelings of nervousness, anxiousness, or on edge just in these last 2 weeks. Number 2, not being able to stop or control worrying. Not being able to stop or control worrying. Not at all is 0. 1 is several days. 2 is over half the days. 3 is nearly every day. Number 3, worrying too much about different things. Have you been worrying too much just about different things? Just in these last 2 weeks, not at all. Several days is 1. Over half the days is 2, and nearly every day is 3. Number 4, trouble relaxing. Have you had trouble relaxing? You get home from work, you say you're going to just go to bed, you're going to be still, but you just can't sit still. You got to do this, you got to do that. As soon as you finish, you think of something else to do. You're exhausted, but you still feel like you got to clean the dishes, you got to go outside, you got to wash the car, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Trouble relaxing, like your mind won't shut off. Trouble relaxing, not at all, is 0. 1 is several days. 2 is over half the days. 3 is nearly every day. Number 5, being so restless that it's hard to sit still. Being so restless that it's hard to sit still. 0 is not at all. 1 is several days. 2 is over half the days. And 3 is nearly every day. Number 6, becoming easily annoyed or irritable. Becoming easily annoyed or irritable. This one was huge for me. It was very irritable, right? Very, very irritable, very easily annoyed, which is definitely out of my character. Becoming easily annoyed or irritable, especially if it's out of your character, right? It is flag on a play. 0, not at all. Several days is 1. Over half the days in the past 2 weeks is 2. Nearly every day is 3. Number 7, and the last one, is feeling afraid as if something awful might happen. Like nothing has happened, but just when somebody goes somewhere, something is about to happen, or something is going on, like you just have it in your mind that something bad is going to happen. I noticed this, and I realized that my dad had some anxiety when I thought about, I just got very intentional about my healing journey, and I just started thinking about my childhood and different things and different ways that, people responded. And one of the things I remember, whenever I would say I was going to drive a long distance or get on the highway, and it could be just that I'm going to go a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours. My dad would always get very antsy and just kind of have an attitude about me getting on the highway. And what I realize now is that he definitely was having some anxiety about me driving, with just I'm my mom's child, My mom would drive across the country in a heartbeat by herself. And so, or with us kids. And so that's what I would do myself. Like I would drive across the country from Baltimore to Texas, from Texas to Baltimore. I mean, that's a 24-hour drive. So I surely would go to Houston 3 hours, Austin, my brother's in Austin 4 hours. That's nothing to do. And so I was always jumping in the car to go somewhere. And I couldn't figure out when I was younger why he would have an attitude. And I realize now that my dad does have a little anxiety. And so, but that's how it shows up. And so, again, this is why it's important to know where you are and know, kind of what's going on with you, why you're responding the way that you are, because it could be something more going on. And the people that you love are affected by you not knowing what's going on, because you don't even know how to communicate. Like instead of my dad saying, I'm just worried about you, right? It came across as, well, go on and go. When you coming back? Well, hurry up and go so you can come on back. You know what I mean? Like it was always, and then I didn't like that it felt that way. I didn't like the friction because I didn't really understand why it was happening. So I would stop telling them that I was going because I didn't want to fuss about it, right? And so I would just stop telling them, and I would call them when I got there and let them know, or I'll call them when I got back and say, that type of thing. And so understanding that, these numbers and these things are vital even in how you communicate and maybe why you're communicating the way that you are. Okay. So that was number 7, feeling afraid as if something awful might happen. And again, how difficult has it made your day to day in these last 2 weeks? Not difficult at all, somewhat difficult, very difficult, or extremely difficult. Okay. Excuse me. Now, I want you to take a minute and add your numbers up. So, what did you get for your depression screening? And what did you get for your anxiety screening? Just add all the numbers up separately. What did you get for the depression number? And then what did you get for your anxiety number? So, you add them all up. Add them all up. And so, we'll review them both at the same time. Okay. I'm sorry, I just scuffed down some food. That's what I'm feeling like. Okay, so we added all the numbers up for the depression score, and I have used what is known as the PHQ-9. PHQ-9 is a depression screening, and the GAD-7 is the anxiety screening that I've used. So for the depression screening, if you have scored from 0 to 4 on a depression screening, that is no signs of depression at this period of point in time. If you scored a 0 through 5 on your anxiety screening, that is no signs of anxiety at this period and point in time. Good for you. That again, and people are just like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with me, or I'm okay, or whatever. And again, this is not, because we are breaking the stigma associated with any type of mental health, especially depression, anxiety. I definitely discussed panic attacks and PTSD that is non-military related. But it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you, right? It's just we got to navigate the world a different kind of way. And so that's why we need to know where we are, so we know how we can navigate, so we can get the right tools to navigate. Okay, moving on. Depression screening 5 through 9. If you got a 5 through 9 on your depression screening, or a 6 through 10 on your anxiety screening, a 5 through 9 on the depression screening, or 6 through 10 on the anxiety screening, you are at the mild level. That means that you're going to watch and you're waiting and you want to repeat and follow up. Okay? You're watching, you're waiting, but you want to make sure that you repeat and follow up. Now, that can be in 3 to 6 months, depending on whatever your doctor is recommending. 3 to 6 months, you want to watch and wait and repeat, because it could be that maybe something just happened. And so you haven't fallen into the thick of it, and you may be on the brim of something bothering you, and you haven't quite acknowledged it yet, or it hasn't been long enough for that 2 week span hasn't, passed all the way. And so you want to just make sure and be mindful. Okay. Moving on. Number 10 through 14. If you scored 10 through 14 on the depression screen, 10 through 14 on the depression screen, or 11 through 15 on the anxiety screen, then that is moderate. You're on the moderate level. In that instance, then you want to consider what they call cognitive behavioral therapy and or medication. Cognitive behavioral therapy. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a minute. But again, you want to consider cognitive behavioral therapy and possibly starting some medications. Again, this is the moderate level. I do understand that most people do not want to start medication, or there's, this really adverse feeling about starting and being on meds. And so that's why we're going to go into the cognitive behavior therapy a little bit deeper in a minute. Okay. Just another option for you to do that is outside of medication. 15 through 19. If you score 15 through 19 on the depression screening, 15 through 19, you are at a moderately severe range for depression. Moderately severe range for depression. Now, this is immediate initiation of medication and cognitive behavioral therapy, both of them together. Sometimes you can do one if you're in the moderate. It's kind of an and or, but if you're in a moderate to severe range, normally a combination works better. On the anxiety screening, anything from 16 to 21 is considered moderate to severe and just above. All of that on the anxiety scale from 16 on up, moderate to severe, you are initiating medication, you are doing cognitive behavior therapy, and you definitely want to talk to a psychiatrist. You want to be talking to a psychiatrist who is the person who prescribes medication, and then you want to talk to a psychologist who is a person that specializes in the CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy treatments. Okay. For depression, anything that's 20 and above, 20 to 27 or 20 and above is in the severe range. And again, the initiation of medication and cognitive therapy. 20 to 27, generally you're having some thoughts of suicide. You are kind of drowning at that point. As I said in the beginning, when I was tested, my big mama and my stepfather had passed away. And I started spiraling, shortly thereafter. And when the holidays came, I started having panic attacks. So that following, my big mama passed away in June, day after Father's Day, June 2015. And then my stepfather passed away in September the following year, September the 14th. And so very two significant people that I lost like shortly thereafter. When the holidays came, I just spiraled. I started the spiraling. And it wasn't even as if I knew what was happening, like I did with what everybody else does, right? Is I just tried to go back to work and go on about my day to day. But what was happening was that I started having these symptoms, but I didn't know what they were. The symptoms are so vague, right? Think about the questions that I asked. They're so vague, just overeating. Like, who doesn't overeat? Like, you've done that your whole life. So why would you think that that's anything? If you're working and you're going to school and you're doing all these things, why wouldn't you be tired? Right? So you don't associate these things with your mental health at all. They're very small, subtle signs. And so I started spiraling and having panic attacks. And one of the things that confused me was that when I started having the panic attacks and I went to the emergency room, they said I was having situational depression. And so I thought, okay, that's normal. They said it would pass. And so I'm waiting. And this was 2 years later when I got the diagnosis and got, tested and was in my 20s. So for 2 years, I'm just going to work, waiting for it to pass. Things are getting worse. I'm not understanding what's all going on. I'm just feeling like I'm tired all the time. Again, all of the symptoms, I had very classic symptoms way longer than 2 weeks, right? But not knowing what the symptoms were. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm very, very passionate about talking about and giving you guys a screening every 3 to 6 months. You pop up on here, we're going to have a screening, sometimes more often than that. We did an anxiety screening last month. But I am very, very passionate about you just knowing your numbers, knowing where you are. Because again, if you don't know where you are, then how can you shift? How can you move forward? Me being in the 20s, if you're in the 15 to 20 range and above, there is a chemical imbalance that happens. And so a lot of people will try to just, work out, or they'll try to, do things without medications. And I applaud you for that. But understand that sometimes if there is a chemical imbalance when it's that high, that means that your levels are so low. If you think about, your gas or your levels in your car, like sometimes they're so low, like the antifreeze. Sometimes you can put water in it and your antifreeze, right? That only is a temporary fix. It's only going to keep you and take you, but for so far. Eventually, you're going to have to do something, right? You're going to have to get a specialized care. You're going to have that special medication to help fill you up and get you back to the level that you need to get to. And that is okay. That doesn't mean that you have a whole lifelong regimen that you're going to have to keep up, right? You can get to a level and you can do the work and get to a place where your serotonin levels, where all your happy endorphins, are back to a level where they need to be and they're releasing themselves. But sometimes we've gone so long, right? It's like a chronic depression. It's a chronic anxiety. We've done it for so long. Our levels are so low that it's hard to get up there by ourselves. And so we need some help. And I need you to understand that that's okay. If you can go into it in a temporary mindset, like, okay, I'm going to do this for a temporary range with the help of your doctor, right? That was one of the things that I didn't have a full understanding. Even being a nurse, I thought, oh, I feel better. I can stop taking these meds. But I would take myself off and wonder why I will plummet back down. I didn't have a regimen of coming off of my meds. I didn't communicate with my doctor and say, hey, I don't want to be on these meds all my life. Can we get a plan together for that? Where they can watch me, and they can monitor, they can bring me back in and test me and make sure that your levels are coming down accordingly, and then adjust your meds as you go. It has been done. It can be done, but with the help of a professional, it's the safest thing, okay, that you can do. Now, I was about to say my screen just disappeared. Now, let me just talk a little bit about the difference in anxiety and depression really, really quickly, because, some people get them confused. Some people have both together. Know that you can coexist. I had they call it major depressive disorder, because I had it for so long. So it became this chronic thing because, again, I didn't know, right? I was suffering for years, suffering in silence for years. And so, and then I was having anxiety with the panic attacks and everything, which again was a chronic situation. And so you can have them both at the same time, or you can have either or, which again, a medical professional would need to be the one to let you know the difference in what you're having in that. Okay, so anxiety and depression, both mental health conditions. Anxiety is characterized by excessive worrying, fear, and nervousness about future events or situations, often accompanied by physical symptoms like restlessness and rapid heartbeat. um, Depression is persistent feelings of sadness, loss of interest or pleasure in activities, and a sense of hopelessness, right? Two completely different things. Anxiety, you really are making stories up in your head. They have not happened, they do not exist. Right? It is just you telling yourself that something is going to happen, and then in getting yourself caught up in the loop of it, you've made a whole story up in your mind about things that might be happening, something that is going to happen, has not happened. And it may be because of something that happened in your past. It may be because of something that happened in your childhood, right? That triggers you. It could be anything. And so that's why it is very important to know, some people have anxiety. Again, some people only have depression. Some people have both. Okay. So it's very important for you to know the difference. So anxiety primarily focuses on perceived threats or potential negative outcomes, leading to heightened state of alertness. Again, potential negative outcomes. You don't know what's going to happen when you go over so and so's house, but you think, if I leave this house and I go over there, something's going to happen, so and so's going to happen, this is going to take place. You don't even give the opportunity for it to happen, right? Depression, on the other hand, mainly centered around feelings of sadness, emptiness. There's a lack of motivation. I was so complacent, right? Which is not like me at all. Very motivated, very, very much a leader. But I had no drive at all. I had no desire, right? I didn't have any desire at that period of point in time to do anything but come home and go to work, but come home and go to work. And I was stuck in that little rut of it all. And so there was little interest in doing things, right? If I was out and I got invited to something, sometimes I would feel, especially when I was really in the thick of it, I would feel like I wanted to go. But for whatever reason, that anxiety would get a hold of me, and I would start worrying about different things, and I couldn't figure out why I didn't want to go. It was very strange for me. And so it may be very strange where you're thinking, dang, I want to go, but you can't figure out why or what it is. And that is the anxiety, that is the depression. And so lack of interest in I said anxiety, but I meant to say depression. That is a lack of interest, a lack of motivation in doing things. Physical symptoms that may occur with anxiety are sweating, trembling, muscle tension, and dizziness. Again, because you could be having little mild panic attacks and not know it. I was losing spans of time because I was having these mild panic attacks and I really didn't know what was happening. And again, that feeling like you're moving in slow motion, right? Um, all plays a role as well. Depression physical symptoms is changes in appetite. Again, are you not eating? Will you have no appetite, or are you overeating? Sleep disturbances. Are you sleeping too much, or you can't get out of the bed, right? Were you hitting the snooze button? I was hitting the snooze button, hitting the snooze button, hitting the snooze button. Or I would just be up, just insomnia. Just I could not sleep, tired, and couldn't sleep. Low energy levels. low energy levels, all physical signs of depression. Cognitively, for anxiety, it's excessive overthinking, and difficulty concentrating due to the worrying. Like you can't even think about anything else. You're trying to get stuff done, but you can't get it done. Uh, Difficulty concentrating due to worrying. Cognitive patterns for depression is negative thought patterns, just all live negative self talk, right? Feelings of worthlessness, feelings of just this self criticism. That all are cognitive signs of depression, where you're the negative self talk all the time, right? Just loud, blaring on speaker. That is a cognitive pattern of depression. Um, Duration of symptoms for anxiety, it tends to be more episodic and triggered by specific stressors or situations. So, like for me, what would happen is I would be driving on my way to work, and I saw um, a, a blazer. It would be the white blazer my stepfather used to drive. That was a trigger for me. I did not know, and so that's why we talk about triggers as well. Um, it's easier to handle things when you know what your triggers are. As far as depression is concerned, it can be persistent and it may last for weeks, it can last for months, or it can even last for years. Especially if your depression is layered around grief. This is one thing that I didn't know as well that I know now, I didn't know in the beginning, is that depression is a stage of grief. There are different stages of grief: depression, anger, bargaining, um, denial. Denial is one: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those are the five stages. There are some labels they have, like seven or eight or whatever, but those are the five core stages. And so if you have lost someone at any given time, know that you can be in any of those stages. Now, again, and I'm just addressing this because the depression and the grief can kind of intertwine. And that is what happened with me as well. The depression and the grief intertwined. So, again, stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. You can flow back and forth through each one of those stages within weeks, within months, within years. So you can be flowing very, very fine and stay at a point of anger for years. Stay at that stage of anger for years. You can be flowing and stay at a place of denial for years, right? Where you can't believe that this has happened. And then it's just this trigger that every time a birthday come, every time if it's your mom, Mother's Day come, if it's your father, Father's Day come, if a special day comes where y'all had a special memory, right? All those things are triggers. If you're walking and you smell something, that their perfume that they used to wear, that could be a trigger. If you see something, if you're watching TV and y'all always used to watch football together. When I was grieving the relationship of my ex-husband and I, my thing was we used to cook in the kitchen together. So I didn't cook for years. I didn't cook for years, right? I was in denial about that. I didn't cook for years. I was telling people I was telling my relationships, people I was in the relationship with, I don't cook. I don't do that. Love to cook, right? I was grieving. I was grieving. So grieving is not even then that stage of depression. It's not just the loss as if somebody has passed away. Grieving is just a loss. Just a loss. It's a loss of relationships, whether the person has passed away or not. It's a loss of a job. It's a loss of a life that you thought you might have. All of those things. And so again, that's why these conversations are really, really important for you to just try to figure out what exactly is going on with you? Why do you respond the way that you respond? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you not doing the things that you're supposed to do, right? I want to go in real quickly. I told you we would go into the different types of therapy. And so, cognitive behavior therapy is a treatment regimen for anxiety as well as depression. It's called psychotherapy. So there are 3 or 4 different types of psychotherapy. Is cognitive behavioral therapy is one. Exposure therapy is another one. Um, Another one is called interpersonal therapy, and then psychodynamic therapy. These are all psychotherapies, meaning they all are excuse me, you have to have a medical professional. A psychologist normally is the person that helps them navigate you through this type of regimen, therapeutic regimen. And so, cognitive behavioral therapy. Let me see if I have a definition. Yeah, it is a therapy that focuses on changing negative thought patterns and behaviors. And so, cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on changing your negative thought patterns and behaviors. That's really, really important, especially if you're having a lot of negative self talk. If for whatever reason you're just really condescending, if you're really, you can't think of everything that happens is happening and you're thinking about it from a negative and a negative thought process, that part is really, really hard to process it any differently. Then it's good for anxiety and it's good for depression. Um, that is cognitive behavioral therapy. The other is what's good for anxiety is exposure therapy. It's called exposure therapy. So, say you are having anxiety like OCD, like obsessive compulsive disorder, or you have an eating disorder, or again, you're having anxiety about something, some fear of something, some phobia. Exposure therapy is one of the things that they help you individuals just face and reduce the fear and responses. And of course, it's in a controlled environment. Again, this is with therapy. This is not like somebody you scared of pools and somebody just go and toss you in a pool or something crazy like that. It's not that at all. It's a very much controlled environment. Um, Interpersonal therapy addresses interpersonal issues contributing to depression. So it's more so dealing with what is actually going on. Are you depressed because of a loss of relationship? Are you depressed within your relationship, like a husband and wife thing where, y'all are just not communicating and getting along the way that you used to, and it's affecting your spirit at this point? Is it with your children? Is it with your parents? Is it from your childhood? Right? Interpersonal therapy addresses these issues, and that can definitely contribute to your mental status. The psychodynamic therapy is something that I pride myself in, and this is something that I use in my 12-week program. It's called psychodynamic therapy, and this is exploring the underlying psychological root of the depression, the psychological root of the issue that you're dealing with. Um, I call it the what's in the pit of your belly stuff, right? It is the very uncomfortable conversations and places that you need to go in order to really heal, right? To really dig up that nasty weed that has grown. A lot of times, this stuff is childhood trauma, right? It's the stuff that very uncomfortable things that we don't like to talk about, but it is the necessary things that you have to do to heal. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people feel like I've been to therapy and it didn't work, because they do the other therapies that I mentioned, because those are very surface type therapies. Like, you'll get some relief and you'll feel better from some of the activities and exercises, but it's not really getting to the root cause, or what exactly is going on with you. And so you leave therapy and things are still happening. You're still triggered. You're still right. And it's because you didn't get to the root cause. And so the psychodynamic is really, again, an uncomfortable um, regimen, but it is a necessary regimen um, to do. Now, I just, listed some pros and cons. Cognitive behavioral therapy, no matter what type that you do, all of it is very evidence-based therapy, therapeutic regimens. It is, very outlined. It is extensive research that has been done. All of it can help with, again, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Um, and it just depends on what number, how many sessions, and how compliant that you are. This is another thing. Like, I've worked with people that have said, I've been to therapy and it didn't work, but they may have only went to 3 or 4 sessions. And so realistically, guys, you have to think about this realistically. A lot of us are dealing with things that, again, in the psychodynamic, that are stuff from our childhood that we just have never dealt with, and we don't understand that how it's showing up in our bodies right now, right? And so if you're dealing with something that's from your childhood and you're over 28 years old, do you think that it's only going to take 1 or 2 or 3 sessions in order for you to deal with whatever it is that you've been holding on to for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? So I just want you to think about that. And for all of you that are saying, I've tried therapy and it didn't work, did you really try it? Did you actually give it the time and the chance, or did it get uncomfortable, right? And you ran. I'm pausing right there purposely. Did it get uncomfortable, right? Because it is uncomfortable. Um, Again, one of the things I pride myself in is helping you to navigate the comfortable, the uncomfortable conversations that you need to have with yourself. There is not one person on this side of heaven that can heal you but you, right? You have the power. You have all the ability. You have, I feel like, equipped with the knowledge, right? You have the ability to break every chain that is holding you hostage. And when I say chain, I do feel like depression is a chain. I do feel like anxiety is a chain. I do feel like the panic attacks, the PTSD, are chains, right? They're mental chains that are holding you hostage. You were holding me hostage. And only I can deal with, only I can, you know, break free and break loose from them. Only you can do the work to break free and break loose from them. But it starts with being honest with yourself, right? It starts with you being honest with yourself to know, hey, take the test. Where you at? No, it doesn't mean that you're crazy, right? Break that stigma. And you running from it does not make it go away. And so I challenge you to have this uncomfortable but necessary conversation with yourself. If you have scored again anywhere in the moderate to severe or severe range, then I just implore you to talk to your primary care doctor. If you don't have a primary care doctor, 988 is the mental health resource. It's a national mental health resource. It doesn't matter what city or state that you are in, they will give you resources that are in your local area, resources that are able to help you. If you are having suicidal thoughts, they have someone that is available that will talk to you right then and there. And it doesn't matter how many times you call. You can call as many times as you want, and talk to somebody, right? BetterHelp is another one, www.betterhelp.com. They are also a national resource of therapists that is available and will do video visits with you. They set someone up with you fairly quickly. Okay, www.betterhelp.com. Um, and then I will list the rest, like SAMHSA, NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Health Institute is NAMI. They all have resources. Each one of those have different chapters in your city that can help you as well. And they have different programs. They have different support programs. They have support programs for children that are going through. They have support systems for people that are in domestic violence situations, for different things, for homelessness, for veterans, right? They have a bunch of different programs, all these places. And so please, it is too many resources out here for you to feel like you're alone in a situation. That is why I do what I do, and that's why I teach what I teach. That's why I make myself available to answer questions, because I may not have all the answers, but I will be able to point you in the right direction, right? But the other biggest thing is to let you know, one, you are not alone. That is a big thing with the stigma, with the mental health, is that people think that they're alone. There's so much shame and so much guilt, and you think that you're alone in your situation, and I promise you that you are not. If statistically 1 in 5, that means look around when you go to work, look around when you go out. 1 in 5 people are suffering in silence. You are not alone. People are just too embarrassed, too ashamed. They're feeling just how you feel, right? Like nobody cares. But that again is the devil, and the devil is a liar. So, if you have any questions, please reach out. You can always send me a message. If I can answer the question, I definitely will. If I can't, I will find a resource for you and help you navigate that. It is Men's Month, and so we will be here throughout the month looking at different topics that affect your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions for our men. Why? Because our men are our foundation, right? We are living in a world where, it says, that we don't need men, that it's a lot of programs and resources and things out there for women, and things for women to get ahead, and our men are left behind. And we need our men. You guys are the foundation. And so if you are not right, you're the head, right? And so we need you to be right, because we need you to be the head of our households, right? And so we need y'all to be right. We need you to be able to lead. We need you to be able to communicate. We need you to know, again, that you are not alone, that we're all in this together. All right. It's your girl, Michelle Allen Franklin, honey, Miss D.I. This has definitely been a divine intervention. That was a lot of information, I know, in 1 hour, but I hope you got something out of it. I pray that you know that you are not alone, and you do not have to suffer in silence. And that is what I do as a community builder, honey. I'm bringing you the good information, the things you need for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. Okay? We'll be back with more again this month. So keep your notifications on, because every time I post a time, Lord knows, things happen. And so Like Mr. Les Brown, I aspire to inspire until I expire. That's what I'm doing, honey. What you doing? Better get them numbers right. Know them numbers. Until next time. Bye.